and it's how much interference are you creating to the flow. So I believe, under the context of existentialism, I am. So I am health, I am happiness, I am wealth, I am worthiness. And in varying degrees, everyone creates interference between the flow, from the greatest source of light, love, and lessons, through us to everything else in the universe, right? There's a flow of oneness, and it's an energetic flow that, to me, contains the truth, the highest frequency. So love, I call it the truth, love, light, and lessons, because that's the only way we can find or be aware of the truth. And so, in varying degrees, like, you create your own interference between you and the greatest source, and me, and him. And then he's creating his own interference between the greatest source and us. And those interferences are based upon the continuum that exists between the conscious, the subconscious, and the quantum being, the unconscious being, the genetic being, the DNA, the coding that we are, the frequency that we are, the vibration that we are, that materializes itself in different forms. So for me, the flow is everything, and for me, the shift in the paradigm is understanding what we do to interfere with the flow.
What about being in a flow state? Like,
so you're lessening the interference.
Like when you do your
yeah,
passion.
so that's when the interference is gone.
Yeah.
Right, when we're, like for me, when I'm downloading, like I can do it sometimes in a speech, or, I'm just in the flow, like literally the actual vibration frequency, the thoughts are coming through me, and I don't even know what I'm saying. And the same thing in sports, right? When you just hit the shot, especially like golf, I can be in the flow where no idea how it went in, no idea why it was perfect. It's just, and being around so many sports and creative artists and speakers and authors, if you're writing a book, the pages are just flying by and you're like, whoa. Thank God they have an automatic numbering system now, because in the old days, when I used to write, the pages would be everywhere and I'd be in the flow and then get out of it and I'm like, whoa, how do I put this back together?
How did 5 hours pass by,
Yeah, that's the flow.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I'm trying to tell and show with this exhibition as well, because I love experimenting. I love getting out of my comfort zone, even though getting out of your comfort zone can feel like very, new, but living in the unknown and like embracing the unknown is something I also want to get more familiar with. But how do I show and tell a flow state? Because at one point it was how every single piece here was created. That's me being completely absorbed in what I do, but also wanted to be the way that people, maybe just for one moment, could experience this as well. So just for 1 minute or for a couple of seconds, just forget everything, worries, thoughts, COVID, whatnot, and
that's the interference.
Just be present.
To be in the flow, to connect with little or none of the interferences. So your sculpture, for example, why do you think you broke it? Like, if your intention is flow, so why is it broken?
So first of all, that sculpture is something that is completely out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I've never worked with bronze before. I've never done a freestanding sculpture. I've done like a geometric sculpture that was like on like a wall. So this is the first time. This is like, with the plinth, it's like 600 pounds. And I did the first drawing just like last year and coming into life, but and it actually represents like the two different styles, the very well planned and the very unexpected results. And you see, this is when I paint this very abstract pieces, I have no plan
right? You let come through you.
Unexpected results. I don't know what the end result is going to look like. These pieces are super well planned, colored sketches, everything. I know the end result. And this was kind of like those two worlds merging together with something like reconciling like contrasts of the dark, the light, the sharp, the soft, but also reflection and absorption, just like this, like matte. When you look in, like you can almost like mirror yourself.
So for me, like I thought of like recollecting, remembering, reminding, like this, aggregate force of unification. even though it's separate, it's still one. Like that's where I thought it was interesting. Like although there's some sort of separation or interference, it actually in itself, you can't see what's connecting the oneness of it, right? So although in the material sense, the material's separate, but it's one sculpture.
Exactly.
And it was really intriguing to me.
The balance points, because at some point it looks like, are they actually together or are they just like floating? Because this big middle piece, it doesn't make sense that it's just standing there, it's not falling or whatever.
How is it not falling?
Seriously, so the plinth is made of like wood, but then there is like a 200-pound skeleton inside that holds it together with like one like big screw up. So if you look through this, you will see a crazy construction because the whole bronze sculpture is like 400 pounds.
Yeah.
This sculpture was delivered 24 hours before the opening night, and we worked on it for like 6 months, and it just came the night before the opening. It was so crazy. It was the
Did they deliver it in one piece?
But since it's so heavy, they had like they had a truck and like this like crane with like chains and everything to lower it down and everything. So they had, I think there were like 5 or 6 people installing that sculpture on the night before the opening.
Wow.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was really crazy.
I thought you were going to tell me it used to be one piece until it was delivered. Then now it's 3 pieces. Okay, new art.
Yeah. Can we try again or just work on this?
And you painted the whole gallery.
Exactly.
How long did it take you to paint the gallery?
So that's actually vinyl.
Okay.
So I had some.
So it's wrapped, basically.
It is a wrap, but it's my design. I just designed it all and made like the whole composition work of how I wanted it, like disappear like into white, on the tall walls, because I want this like immersive experience where you trying to step into what is actually going into my mind, because a lot of stuff is going on. So really in a better way to represent my world in a visual way.
And was this made to complement the sculpture?
Yeah, so this shape is actually something that you would see on several of my pieces. You also see these pieces on here with this.
Yes, on that one.
Exactly. So that shape has its roots in my background as a graffiti writer, like the beginning of a wild style letter, but how can I make something like more simple and combine the worlds of graffiti, but also the contemporary art world. That's like a very fine balance, also because I'm not here to live by the rules. I'm not here to be the next contemporary artist. I want to work on my own path. Yes, I am inspired by Salvador Dali, Keiser, and Pollock and so forth, but they are also representing like surrealism and abstract expressionism and a lot of different worlds, and I'm kind of like reconciling and juxtaposing all those different genres to create like my own world. Go against the rules, bend the traditions, and what people like, what you ought to do. I don't want to do that. I ultimately I just want to feel free. Because when I feel free, I'm happy, and that's the ultimate goal. Actually, like a question I want to tell you about, because I think you had a really great talk out there, and I love just the way you help people, but the only thing that will stand in people's way is yourself and your own mind. And how do you master your mind? Because did you always do that? No, right. And you're probably still working on it. And I think that's the next thing, is to get on a level where you sit, like when you meditate, you sit yourself down and then you're telling who the master is. Right? Yeah. And your body's like, oh no, I have to do all this and that. It's like, you sit now, and
the practice of being quiet is an interesting aspect of controlling your own mindset.
Yeah.
And just understanding the world and the universe itself, and how you can lose this world that we live in, which creates all of these things. And so it's so interesting, because you can't stay in the flow for too long if you live in the pragmatic world. And I'll tell you why, because there's so much data that's coming through you. When you take a download, that's what the flow is. You're taking it's like drinking through a fire hose almost, right? But you're in the flow. You can't do it for that long. I bet the days that you get into the flow for 5 or 10 hours, the next day you're physically sore because you're vibrating so fast that the cellular structure that you have, it's like you worked out or ran a marathon and so I try to utilize man-made construct of time for the man-made journey I'm on, because there's two different journeys, right? There's this infinite, limitless journey, and then there's the one to play the game that I'm in, the man-made construct of the sun going up and the sun going down. And so sometimes if we spend too much time in the ethereal, it can actually diminish our capacity of what we can do in the real world, because you're taking sometimes too much information. It's like overworking out, in my opinion. So I try to regulate that mindfulness time that you're talking about, the quiet time, so that I'm taking consistent bite-sized, advancements instead of trying to, run a marathon every day. I like to do like 3.5 miles.
But you also
every once in a while I run a marathon. Yeah.